Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 302. Alan Dershowitz has been on a suing spree as of late. Talk about him in a TV show, you're sued. Talk about him here, you're sued. Oh, you got something to say? Well, you're sued too. And now it looks like CNN is the next entity that is in his crosshairs. According to Alan Dershowitz, CNN portrayed him as somebody, get ready for this, folks, who has lost their mind. Now, I don't know about you, but in my opinion, it certainly doesn't seem like Alan Dershowitz would need CNN's help to portray him as somebody who is unhinged. Because what we have seen in the past 6 months or so, at the very least, shows all the signs of somebody who is exactly that, unhinged. And in my opinion, Alan Dershowitz is showing all of the telltale signs. You would think a guy like Dershowitz wouldn't have the time to worry about the portrayal of some TV show of a fictitious role that Alan Dershowitz played. You would think that Alan Dershowitz would be way too busy to worry about CNN and their portrayal of him, especially considering we're talking about CNN. They might as well be the Onion at this point. Why would you care one bit what CNN or Fox or MSNBC or any of these networks thought about you? Certainly, I don't know how you could care enough to want to sue them. How many different lawsuits and shit is this guy going to have going on at the same time? And if he is guilty of the crimes that he is alleged to have committed within Jeffrey Epstein's orbit, you would think he'd be focusing on his own defense. So let's jump into this article from Above the Law and try and suss out just exactly what the hell Mr. Naked Volleyball in Martha's Vineyard is up to now. Alan Dershowitz is absolutely, positively not an intellectual who had lost his mind. This piece is authored by Elizabeth Dye. Alan Dershowitz is suing CNN for $300 million because the network defamatorily failed to quote a full paragraph of his argle-bargling about Donald Trump's impeachment, giving viewers the entirely false impression that the famed lawyer has lost his mind. Yes, for real. So, I mean, I don't even understand how this could even see its any time in court, right? Or in front of a judge or anything. This should just be thrown out right away. This is why the legal system is such a joke in this country. You're really going to sue CNN of all places? That's like saying you were defamed by Alex Jones at this point. Who cares? But yet, Alan, I kept my underpants on Dershowitz. Well, he has to challenge it and he has to sue CNN because he doesn't have enough problems as it is. Were you under the impression that Dersh might have ruined his own reputation by going on Laura Ingraham's show to shout about his perfect sex life in a bizarre attempt to slag his arch nemesis, David Boies, after accusing Boies Schiller of being a Rico? And, it's funny that he tried to claim that Boies and Schiller were running a RICO operation at their law firm, considering the people he's associated with and the RICO case that never was because of his doings behind the scenes. Pretty ironic that he'd bring up RICO, huh? He seems to bring up a lot of things in this case, the Jeffrey Epstein case, that automatically boomerang back to him and his cohorts. Projection much, Mr. Underpants? Or maybe your esteem started flagging at the quixotic attempt to quiet doubters by proving that he never, not ever, had sex with underage girls when he was hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein, an effort Dersh has bolstered by protracted litigation and public efforts to Zapruder the flight logs to show that he only went to Epstein's sex island in the company of his wife. Most people might deny it and then shut the hell up, Oh, but not Professor Dershowitz. And it's true. He parrots about it all the time, sends off tweets that aren't even needed. Nobody asked him. Nobody wanted his opinion on anything. But here he is sitting around in his tighty whities waiting for the next naked volleyball game to crack off, sending out tweets in an unhinged manner. And he's worried about CNN's portrayal of him. My dude, you're doing a fantastic job on your own of all of us looking at you and thinking the same. The Doc Brown hair, the unhinged attitude. What do you think we're going to say, sir? Perhaps if the retired Harvard professor hadn't sued Epstein's alleged survivor while simultaneously thrusting himself into the middle of the impeachment hearings, reporters wouldn't have bothered to dig up his insistence on playing pornography in the common areas at Harvard, for the First Amendment obviously, and his 1970s musings on lowering the age of consent. Well, it's true. I mean, why would anyone pay attention to Alan Dershowitz? Unless he's inserting himself into these issues. And once you insert yourself into the issue, especially when the allegations that you have hanging over your head are so disgusting and so gross, well, what do you think's going to happen, Mr. Underpants On? Of course, people are going to look into what you have to say. People are going to look into your past works. People are going to try and put the pieces together. That's why somebody like Alan Dershowitz, who's been a public figure for decades upon decades at this point, to come out and try and sandbag CNN because of their so-called portrayal of him is laughable at best. And if any judge in the country deems it worthwhile to see this case and hear it, that judge is also a joke. I'm pretty sure we have more pressing needs in the justice system than Mr. Dershowitz's nonsense. Might Americans have decided the famed constitutional scholar had lost a step when he took to the airways to assure Americans that he only got one massage at Jeffrey Epstein's house from an old Russian woman, and he kept his underwear on the whole time. Or when he threatened to sue CBS because a fictional character made a joke about it. And this is the ongoing underpants talk, right? That's why I call him I kept my underpants on Dershowitz. This dude is an absolute character. So you kept your underpants on and it was an old Russian woman. Do we know if this old Russian woman was trafficked? Has this old Russian woman ever come forward to be talked to? The lady who gave him the massage? Has anybody reached out to her, tried to find out who she is? I'm sure if you press Ghislaine Maxwell hard enough, she knows. So why don't we get to the bottom of it? Let's get to the bottom of it, Mr. Dershowitz. Who is this old Russian woman? Why are you getting a massage at your homeboy's house? And why are you keeping your underpants on and telling us about it? As if that is some kind of be-all, end-all proving that you did nothing wrong. Well, I kept my drawers on. What if you're into other weird shit, bro? It's laughable that this dude really thinks that people are going to look at his behavior and not question what nonsense he is up to. No, obviously the damage occurred in January of 2020 when CNN failed to quote the entirety of Alan Dershowitz's speech on the House floor, saying that it was fine for the president to wield the apparatus of the American government to aid his own electoral prospects. See, Dersh said, the only thing that would make a quid pro quo unlawful is if the quo were somehow illegal. Now we talk about motive. There are three possible motives that a political figure could have. One, a motive in the public interest, and the Israel argument would be in the public interest. The second is in his own political interest, and the third, which hasn't been mentioned, would be his own financial interest. His own pure financial interest, just putting money in the bank. I want to focus on the second one for just one moment. Every public official that I know believes that his election is in the public interest, and mostly you are right. Your election is in the public interest. And if a president does something which he believes will help him get elected in the public interest, that cannot be the kind of quid pro quo that results in impeachment. I mean, all over that comment is why he's suing, because he says it was taken out of context. And I get it, right? I understand if you're taken out of context or whatever, you want to set the record straight. And Dershowitz has plenty of avenues to do that. But for him to want to sue CNN over this, it's mind-boggling to me that he would continue to insert himself in the middle of the spotlight and then cry when he's getting blasted and eviscerated. And while he admits that CNN's Wolf Blitzer played the whole clip, other CNN commentators just talked about the last couple of sentences, leaving viewers with the possibly mistaken impression that Professor Dershowitz was endorsing a theory that presidents could commit crimes with impunity if they believe the result to be in the public interest. Leave aside that the Government Accountability Office found that withholding congressionally allocated funds from Ukraine was, in fact, illegal. Well, that's neither here nor there. We could debate about the merits of Ukraine until we're blue in the face. I'm sure everybody has some strong opinions about that. The very notion of that was preposterous and foolish on its face, and that was the point. To falsely paint Professor Dershowitz as a constitutional scholar and intellectual who had lost his mind. With that branding, Professor Dershowitz's sound and meritorious arguments would then be drowned under a sea of repeated lies. Who cares? His arguments aren't for the public to judge anyway. His arguments weren't for CNN to judge anyway. It was for the senators who were hearing the case, who were hearing the impeachment. So all of this is such bullshit. And they did it on purpose to punish him for supporting President Trump. However, Professor Dershowitz appears to have made one mistake. He chose to defend the President of the United States and defend the U.S. Constitution at a moment in time where CNN has decided that doing so is not permitted. For this, CNN set out to punish him and destroy his credibility and reputation, and unfortunately succeeded. That sounds so sinister. As if CNN has that power at this point. I know people that are even ardent, hardcore leftists who laugh at CNN at this point. They understand the corporate media is all a joke. CNN, Fox, all the same shit. Everybody knows it. So for this guy to act like CNN has ruined his credibility after he made a fool of himself on his own, I mean, come on. There's a lot CNN can be blamed for, but ruining Alan Dershowitz's career? Not on the list. Characterizing the refusal to air the whole quote as part of a deliberate scheme to defraud its own audience at the expense of another's reputation, the First Amendment warrior accuses the network of intentionally misleading its viewers and hiding the truth from their eyes and ears. That's such bullshit. I can't believe I'm forced to defend CNN, but here we are. This is such absolute bullshit. They weren't misleading anybody, all right? CNN is an opinion-based station. Everybody knows that. It's not hard news. All of those shows are opinion-based. So leading their viewers? They don't have to lead their viewers anywhere, folks. Their viewers seek that out. Their viewers want that confirmation bias. Just like the viewers of Fox want their bias confirmed. Touting himself as one of the most revered and celebrated legal minds of the past century, and so modest, Dershowitz points to a news cycle where people quit mocking Dershowitz for yammering about his panties for a couple of hours and instead mocked him for his defense of the president's conduct. And for his pains, his great legal mind demands $50 million in compensatory damages and $250 million in punitive damages. I mean, really? This is such a joke right now. Meanwhile, the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's criminal enterprise that you helped facilitate with your legal advice, that you helped get off the hook with your legal advice, that you allegedly took part in, still can't get one damn dime from your buddies Indike and Khan. I hope you feel good about yourself with your $250 million punitive damage ask and your $50 million in compensatory damage ask. I hope you feel real good, Mr. Dershowitz, you scoundrel. Hey, quit laughing. It's not an ignominious end to a glorious legal career. Dersh is on top of his game, ready to take on the world, primed to hit the nude beaches for an impromptu lecture on presidential prerogatives. Look out, Martha's Vineyard, here he comes. And I like the scorching tone of this article very much. Elizabeth Dye, I can get down with a bit of that kind of evisceration of a scoundrel like Alan Dershowitz. And he deserves it. This guy continuously inserts himself into the public eye, into the public sphere, and when somebody questions him or goes after him, he says he's gonna sue. Well, nobody cares, Mr. Dershowitz. All right? I think your tighty whities might be on a bit too tight. I think you might be a little agitated because you're no longer welcome at the naked volleyball game. And it is rather obvious to anybody paying attention that you are not, sir, on the top of your game. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at Bobbycapucci at protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI at protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. All right, everybody, we'll be back tomorrow. Hope you all have a fantastic night.